As interesting as it is to write about Naruto and Sasuke and Sakura, they're hardly the only characters who matter. Naruto appears to be a story retold time and time again, with the same beginning and middle, with only the cast and ending changed based upon who plays what roles. That's one reason why writing what-ifs is so easy for this, because the series itself is already a what-if. So now we're going to imagine a world where Kakashi and Obito both got the Rinnegan. Now, how will they do this, you may ask? Well, it's simple. We're going to imagine that in this world, since they mirror Naruto and Sasuke so much, that maybe Obito and Kakashi are Indra and Asura reincarnates too. Some people might question how we can do this when Madara is still alive, and the timelines of Obito and Kakashi cross over between the previous incarnates. Well, the reason for that is because I don't think the way reincarnation works in Naruto is the same as everywhere else. After all, Madara and Hashirama could be reincarnated in the life and times of Sasuke and Naruto. If Naruto and Sasuke were literally Madara and Hashirama, then they couldn't be summoned by Impure World Reincarnation. No, I think that what the reincarnation cycle of Indra and Asura is the passing of chakra and will to the next generation. The will of fire and the curse of hatred. That's what I believe anyway, so I'm telling you this early on so you get the reasoning behind why this is possible. Still with me? Good. Now, let's get into the part you came for. But first, let me just say, welcome to the Amagi. Before we begin, only 25% of our viewers are subscribed. So if you're a fan of the video, please like and double check if you are subscribed, and with that out of the way, let's get into the video. As Kakashi stood there looking on at his little team, Team 7, he began to think back to how Minato must have felt. There was something about this team that was so familiar, and he loved it. It was like he was back where he began. He saw himself in Sasuke, Obito in Naruto, and Rin in Sakura. As he stood there, watching them roughhouse, Naruto being the one to bring about this little game by climbing over Sasuke in a semi-antagonistic way. And now, whether for fun or out of a serious nature, Sasuke was tussling with Naruto. Despite everything, it was sweet. How much did it remind Kakashi of himself when he was that age, of his own team? And the same was true for someone else who was watching from the distance. A certain masked man had made his way to the village to keep tabs, and there he too was caught up in this reverie. Paths had diverged and lives had split apart. He was hardly the same person he was from then. The Obito that existed then had died that day when he was crushed by that stone, and the person he was now was, well, he had no name. Nobody gave him one, and so he was everyone. He was no one. He was the embodiment of the problems in the world and the manifestation of the will to change it. He was the embodiment of the righteous motives without righteous actions, a contradiction that walked the earth, fitting in nowhere yet going everywhere. And in that way, he stood opposite to Kakashi, both literally, figuratively, and philosophically. Kakashi was there, and he fit in everywhere, yet was going nowhere. Righteous actions without a cause. Kakashi had become a shining example of the shinobi who chose to stand above the system, yet did not actively seek to change it. There was no day or night more contrasting than these two, it felt. And yet, as they both stood there, not quite enemies, not quite friends, they met at the gray area, their shared eyes watching the same thing play out, one seeing it through the lens of hope, the other despair. Kakashi viewed the team as what could have been, while Obito viewed it as what can never be. It was strange how a pair of eyes from the same origin could see two totally different perspectives. Had it always been so? As Obito and Kakashi stood there, remembering their past, each of their minds told a story that these ringed eyes remembered. And though neither of them had the full story, these eyes had been silent witness to all of it, and they remembered, even if they could tell the story to nobody, not even their wielders. But the silent voice within these eyes echoed out across time and space, that the story not be forgotten, and that voice reaches you, here and now. Allow me to tell the story of light and dark, and how their wounds brought them together while simultaneously pushing them apart, causing a polar shift in thought processes. Obito had always been the hopeful one, and Kakashi the pessimistic one who refused to believe, thinking that the only way to maintain honor was to stick with the system that abused those who followed it. Obito was the opposite, believing that honor came not from following the rules that commanded one to hurt another and to destroy friendships and families for the sake of its own benefit. No, Obito was an idealist, and perhaps somewhere along the way, that was lost. And if it was, Kakashi must have found it. The world truly was a strange place, and it seemed that Kakashi's fates were intertwined from birth to death. A duet, an eternal dance with its highs and lows, positions switching. In some way, there was beauty in it, but though it was poetic, the world suffered now all the more from the outspilling of toxicity, and it all began during the first real excursion into the shinobi world. After being crushed by a stone in his attempt to save Rin, the ever-hopeful, empathetic boy, Obito, perished. Crushed not by the weight of the stones, but by the weight of the world system. The same system that had crushed Sakumo Hatake, and in turn, Kakashi himself. Yet fate would not let him die. Destiny still awaited him, and Obito found that his future was something more than he could imagine. Brought before Madara, his crushed and ruined body leaving him in a state near to death. But Madara was cunning, and the wounds were odd. The boy was missing an eye. This was one of the first things Madara noticed, but what was even stranger was which eye was missing. The boy, crushed on his right side, should have seen his right Sharingan ruptured, yet it was miraculously intact. The socket had been crushed and strained, and so his eye bulged a bit, but the side of his face that had not been harmed was where the eye was missing. Had it been ejected from his head upon being crushed? The pressure within his skull launching the tiny orb out? Or was it something else? Had the boy's body already been taken and ravaged? Had vultures of war, those seeking the power of Isekai Genkai, salvaged his eye, leaving him to die? This was something Madara wished to know, but as it stood, only the boy could tell him, and he was not going to wake up for a very long time. The work began. Hashirama Senju cells mixed with Zetsu flesh, pliable and soft, used to replace the damaged parts of his body and regenerate what could be saved. Eventually, the operation was complete, and Obito stabilized, but there was a lot of work to be done for recovery. After the not-so-pleasant awakening of the boy who feared the location he was in, Madara and Obito found themselves holding a conversation. It had been a long time since Madara had anyone to talk to, save the Zetsu, who, in most cases, were dull and hard to hold interesting or thought-provoking conversations with. This boy, however, brought him topics and information from the outside, things Madara wished to know. And the boy? After his horrible experience, he sought something to take his mind off of his trauma, both physical and emotional. Finding something of a grandfather in Madara, Obito began to imprint upon the elderly man for emotional support, and Madara let him. In the end, this was best for them both. "What happened to your eye?" Madara asked. "It's always a shame to see one of our clansmen losing that which defines them. Was it stolen from you, or was it lost in an accident?" Obito began to explain, somewhat with a smile on his face, something Madara didn't expect. "My friend Kakashi got hurt, and because of his wounds, he was blinded in his eye. He lost it protecting me, so when I was crushed, I decided to pay him back, expecting that I would die." "If you had known you would live, would you have given him your eye?" Madara asked. "Well, I don't know, but it is what it is now, and I know he'll take good care of it." "Will you ever ask for it back?" Madara asked. "No, I don't think I will. I gave it to Kakashi. I won't make him return it." The answer was honorable in the eyes of Madara. Honorable and stupid. There was so much left to teach Obito, and what he would teach him next would be sure to break that idealistic view he held of the world. A plan set in motion, a damsel in distress. Madara secretly made it so that Obito's path should cross with his former team again, and when it did, it led to the demise of Rin Nohara, an important part of Obito and Kakashi's life. The sight of such a thing awakened something in Obito he didn't know was there. His Mangekyo, sure, but this was nothing compared to what was actually hiding under the surface. As his Mangekyo awakened for the first time, something awakened alongside of it. A Rinnegan, Obito's own chakra mixed together with the Hashirama Senju cells in such a way as to produce something unique that few individuals had ever awakened. And due to this, his power increased. It spiked higher than ever before, granting him supreme understanding to how the 5 basic chakra natures worked, and granted him access to many ninjutsu that he had no idea even existed until this time. With it, he easily dispatched of the Kirinin around him, avenging the death of Rin. But what Obito could not have guessed was that he was not the only one to awaken the Rinnegan. Returning to the cave where Madara was, Madara took one look at Obito and his pilfered eyes widened. It was the Rinnegan. He had not expected this. Was it possible that Hashirama Senju cells could awaken a Rinnegan in anyone who possessed a Sharingan? No, surely not. As he looked on, he began to feel as though there was something connecting him and Obito, something on a deeper level. "That eye you've awakened," Madara said. "Do you know the significance of it?" "I don't care about the significance of it," Obito said, still having not entirely noticed that he awakened something more than the Mangekyo. Madara began to explain, knowing that he had Obito right where he wanted him. He began to explain his plan to Obito, all the while explaining to him the importance of the Rinnegan, what it could do, and how it made him the true heir to his dream. To say Obito was sold was an understatement. His distaste for the shinobi world had transformed into hatred due to its continual abuse, robbing innocent people of their lives, and finally robbing from him the life of his love. Obito hated it so much, and he'd stop at nothing to see this world reset. But this story is not solely about Obito, because lying face down in the mud, in the dirt, covered in blood and regret, a young boy, a tired soul rests. And as his head rises, his ringed eyes see the face of Rin Nohara, laying there, unmoving, blood no longer gushing but only gently dripping, the only force pulling it from her body, now gravity. He didn't scream, he didn't panic, he didn't cry, he simply looked away. Just like Obito, a part of Kakashi died that day, and he had not the will to look at the blade with which it was carved out of his soul. Kakashi didn't notice any change in himself. He was no longer present. His body was, and his breathing was present, but his soul was somewhere else, flying out into the vast space beyond, a dimension beyond, an empty void in his heart, a shared void in the heart of both Obito and Kakashi that they both called Kamui. Standing up, he didn't even have the strength to bury her. His body was weak, the strength sapped not because it was used up in an effort to fight, but because it had been stolen from him by his very heart. The birds would feast. This was the fate of all who died upon the battlefield. Lest disease spread, the birds did their job, as did the ants. Man had formed from the dust, and would once again return to it, the carbon making up their bones baking in the sun until everything holding it together returned to the ground. In some way, Kakashi felt as though he left a part of him in that dirt to return to dust as well. He just turned in the direction of Konoha. There was no eating, no sleeping, no stopping. Tiredness overtook him, but he kept walking, even as his body ached, as his strength failed, through the hellish heat of sun and the relentless, cold, unfeeling rain. At many points, he felt as though his heart might explode from effort just to keep going, and he welcomed it. Life had become burdensome, and now, for the first time in his life, he understood why his father killed himself. But despite his desires to end his suffering, a little angel lighted over his shoulder, a soft, ethereal hand seeking to bring peace to a heart that had been consumed by the void. An angel whose name was Rin. The very same angel sought to bring the pain to Obito as well, but some hearts were unconsolable. Some hearts would not let themselves be consoled, and Obito's was one of them. No matter how far Rin's hand reached out to Obito's, if he would not take it, she could not help him, and for that reason, this angel shed a tear. "One day you'll hear from me again, and one day when I hold my hand out to you, you will grab it from me, and your heart will finally heal." Kakashi made it back to Konoha days later. He had no idea he had come so far, or how long he had walked. A search and rescue team was about to be sent out to look for him and Rin, headed by Minato himself. Kakashi walked into the gate and was seen by Minato, who rushed to his side. Seeing his apprentice covered in mud and blood and the look upon his face, Minato asked if Kakashi were all right, but there was no answer. "Where's Rin?" Minato asked. And at this, the last thread of strength holding Kakashi up snapped. Kakashi fell to the ground in front of Minato, only caught by his mentor's quick reflexes and gentle hands. "Someone call a medic!" Minato shouted. Kakashi was admitted to the hospital. There he remained. He was not injured, but instead was suffering from extreme exhaustion and malnutrition, something that could only be fixed with rest and proper foods. But Kakashi was not in the mood to eat. He could or would hardly open his eyes, and so his feeding was forced, intravenous in most cases, though they also attempted to put something into his stomach every so often to ensure that he'd still be able to properly digest when he awakened. He slowly began to recover, and that's when they discovered it. His Rinnegan. They questioned him on it, but he had no explanation. he hardly cared. Minato did everything he could to help Kakashi recover, including having a therapist check in on him, but Kakashi refused. Kakashi began to restructure himself, his defense mechanisms kicking into gear. He closed off emotionally once more, just as he had so many years ago, becoming an assassin, killing his own heart, or whatever was left of it, which was just what the Anbu was looking for. Minato's team had been completely and utterly destroyed, and with Kakashi the only one left, even if he disagreed with it, there was no reason to hold him back from his future. So when Kakashi petitioned Minato to release him to the Anbu, Minato had no choice but to sign off on it. Kakashi would join them, becoming a ruthless killer who put the mission above the lives of anyone. He defended this decision with the thought that all who joined the Anbu knew what they signed up for. And as for his enemies, he killed them with ruthless, emotionless efficiency, to the point that the rest of the village began to fear the soon-to-be legendary Kakashi of the Rinnegan Eye. For quite some time, a dialogue was opened in the Uchiha once again, secretly questioning letting Kakashi keep the eye. "It was fine when it was just a Sharingan," one of the opposers to the idea said, "but it's evolved into a dojutsu that hasn't been seen in 1,000 years. It's both important to our clan and a treasure that deserves to be returned." Despite the words of dissent against the decision to let him keep it, Fugaku Uchiha spoke on this wisely, saying, "Regardless of what the eye has or has not become, it was gifted to Kakashi by an honored brother of ours, and it's not our place to void that transaction. The eye was awakened by Kakashi, and due to such, it only further proves his right to maintain it. If he awakened this eye, then we could be looking at him being the next Sage of Six Paths. Or perhaps Obito was the sage, and the Hokage got him killed." Some of the other Uchiha agreed with this angry individual, and Fugaku couldn't deny it, but his word still stood. The eye remains with Kakashi, and that's that. Despite his word though, the Uchiha would not have it. One night, as all slept, a secret plan was put into place to have the eye reclaimed. The Uchiha broke into the home of Kakashi that night, but Kakashi, unable to sleep, was still awake. As the Uchiha kicked down the door, they saw him standing there, his lavender eye glowing in the darkness, a chakra rod in hand. "Give us the Rinnegan, boy, and we'll let you live," one of the Uchiha said. Kakashi's response was simple, yet vicious. With nothing but a look from his eye, the entire right side of this person's body was erased by Kamui. That particular Uchiha didn't even have the ability to scream. The others, now on guard, prepared to attack him, only for Kakashi to hold his hand out and push one of them against the wall with the Diva Path before using the same to pull another toward him, shoving his chakra rod through his heart. As the two remaining attempted to seize Kakashi, Kakashi kicked one to the side. As they slid back, Kakashi raised his rod to strike him, only for his hand to be caught by the other who prepared to kill Kakashi. However, the Uchiha had made a mistake. By making contact, he opened the way for Kakashi to utilize his Preta Path, completely draining that Uchiha of chakra. Turning back to the final Uchiha, he prepared to strike him down, only for that Uchiha to fall on his hands and knees and beg mercy, surrendering. Kakashi would grant it to the man, letting Minato know what happened. You can be certain that Minato had a word with Fugaku about it. "I had no part in this. This was the work of 4 rogue Uchiha. The survivor is being dealt with accordingly. I apologize for their behavior. It will not happen again." After this, Fugaku announced that any who tried to steal Kakashi's Rinnegan for themselves against his word would be considered traitors to the village, traitors to the Uchiha, to which the only answer was death. Minato would meet with Kakashi the day after to ask if he were okay. "Yes, I'm fine," was the only answer Kakashi gave. "We need to better protect that eye of yours, don't we?" Minato said with a smile. Kakashi didn't seem to respond. It was obvious that Kakashi was still struggling, even if he never admitted it. Kakashi's heart had been wounded, scarred by the death of his father, by the death of Obito, and now by the death of Rin. And to that point, Kakashi was now trying to cover his pain by numbing it further. Kakashi was attempting to cover his heart in calluses. This was not the way to be, and even if it dulled the pain, it would destroy him in the end. Minato needed to help Kakashi accept his pain, find meaning in life again, and move on before the stagnation killed him. "Kakashi, I know we're no longer student and mentor, but you still respect me, right?" "Of course," Kakashi said. "If I asked for something rather personal, would you do it for me?" Minato asked. "You are the Hokage," Kakashi said. "Any order you issue to me is an order I fulfill." Minato had hoped that the answer would be a yes out of friendship, but no, it was an answer out of duty. Minato just hoped that it wasn't too late. "As you know, I'm the Hokage. It's a dangerous job, and people are always out to get me in any way they can." Well, I just wanted you to be the first to know that my wife, Kushina, is pregnant. Congratulations, Kakashi said, his words in some liminal space between caring and apathy. Thank you, but here's the issue. She's going to be a target, and I don't trust anyone to protect her. Nobody but you. Will you do this for me? Protect her until she reaches full term. Is this an official order from the Hokage? Kakashi asked. Minato shook his head. No, it's a humble favor, asked by a friend. Kakashi looked into Minato's eyes and saw deep inside a spark of emotion that Kakashi was no longer able to empathize with. But for the sake of their history, Kakashi agreed. For quite some time, Kakashi ghosted Kushina until it was time for her to give birth. During this time, he began to find himself enjoying peace again, beginning to come to terms with his loss. Maybe this was Minato and Kushina's plan all along, Kakashi thought, to remind me of everything and to peel off the calluses on my heart. I hate that it's working. But as you know, things would not last this way forever. The day Kushina was to give birth, someone decided to return to town, and that person's ringed eye was set on the Ninetales. Setting it free, controlling it with his Rinnegan, Obito engaged Minato in combat. As soon as Minato saw the eye in the man's socket, he knew that somehow he must be connected to Kakashi, and considering where Kakashi's eye had come from, pieces were beginning to fall together. The only other person who could have had that Rinnegan was Obito. Are you Obito? Minato finally got about asking. The masked man scoffed. No, Obito died a long time ago. Is that where you got the eye then? You stole it from him? No, this eye is entirely mine, and no one else's. Minato, ready to fight, lowered into a defensive stance. You can't fool me. Not now, Obito. The masked man laughed as he discarded his mask to show his scarred face. You always were perceptive, but regardless, this is where you end. What happened to you, Obito? Minato asked. The world happened to me, Minato-sensei. It taught me a very valuable lesson, one you're about to learn yourself. When someone stronger than you makes the decision to take away the love of your life, you can't do anything but watch. That's what I'm going to show you right now, Minato-sensei. I'm going to teach you the true cruelty of the shinobi world by taking away your wife. And from there, the two began to fight. Obito held an incredible advantage though. With his Kamui, he became intangible, which was a great advantage by itself. But what the Rinnegan allowed him to do through its power was affect the things in this dimension from another. That was the skill of this Sharingan. Even though he was intangible, this did not mean anything he wanted to touch would not be able to be struck. Through his Rinnegan, he created a one-way buffer dimension between Kamui and reality. Incoming attacks passed right through him, but outgoing attacks were unaffected. Obito did this by shifting the grain of the fabric of reality. The physics of this were beyond Minato to understand, and even I'm a little bit fuzzy trying to explain it, but I'm sure you get the idea. With this power, the defeat of Minato Namikaze was quite easy. Minato was killed. With his death, Obito was free to reclaim his mask and return to the head of the Ninetales to continue destroying the village. As he continued destroying everything, he stopped only when he saw Kakashi, his Rinnegan glowing, in the distance. What? Obito questioned. He never considered that Kakashi might have awakened a Rinnegan as well. Due to the unexpected appearance of such a variable, Obito decided that the best thing for him to do was simply flee the village with the Ninetales, teleporting himself and the whole beast out with Kamui. As Kakashi stood there watching, he couldn't help but feel as though he had just seen a ghost. He wasn't sure what it was, but deep down he knew that the Rinnegan in his head and the Rinnegan controlling the Ninetales were two halves of a whole. As the threat disappeared, the village began to ask questions. How was it that the Ninetales was controlled by the Rinnegan when there should only be one? Kakashi came under fire as many believed him to be responsible. The glove fit perfectly. Kakashi was the only known wielder of the Rinnegan, on top of the fact that he was the student of Minato Namikaze and the personal guardian during the time Kushina was pregnant. The evidence was damning, and Kakashi could not deny it. He was the only one who could have done it in their eyes, and even though Kakashi knew of the existence of another Rinnegan, how could he prove it without evidence? The only thing Konoha lacked was clear motive, which they planned to say was insanity. Despite that, Kakashi pled his case to the village, stating that he had nothing to do with the destruction. Everything was circumstantial, there was no evidence behind it. Hiruzen, knowing Kakashi and knowing Minato and Kushina, knew that he needed to protect Kakashi, so he issued a full investigation, saying they could not prosecute Kakashi without enough evidence to prove he was guilty. And if Hiruzen's intuition was correct, as he believed it was, this investigation would stall out and go cold before anyone could prove anything. This was Kakashi getting by just by the skin of his teeth. but it didn't stop the village from blaming him. Kakashi returned to the Anbu, believing it to be the only place where he could work, and work he did, serving Konoha with honor, hoping that his actions would further prove himself innocent. But this wasn't the last he'd hear of it. Kakashi became a danger to the village in the eyes of Danzo Shimura, who wanted to take that Rinnegan for himself and dispose of Kakashi. And to that end, he sent his most trusted assassin, Tenzo, to do the deed. Kakashi, back from training, was in the locker room, changing into a pair of fresh clothes after a hot shower. He was by himself, his feet in water up to his ankles. Nobody ever cleaned the drains, and so water stood. A breeding ground for athlete's foot, to which Kakashi knew he would certainly get soon. But as he finished changing, preparing to leave, that's when he heard the water shift. Turning to look around, he saw nothing, but he knew all the same that they were there. He didn't sense anything, as from the water below, a figure began to rise slowly, wire in their hand. As soon as Kakashi shut the locker, the wire went around his neck. Kakashi had just enough time to put his fingers up to grab it, keeping it from completely strangling him. In a chokehold, he kicked off the lockers into his assassin, shoving them into the lockers behind him. They both slipped and fell into the water. Kakashi managed to get free, but Tenzo disappeared into the water. Kakashi had felt as though he'd been tracked for a while, but thought it to be paranoia. Now, he knew he was wrong. Tenzo was intelligent. His main chakra natures he was blessed with were water and earth style, both of which together made up wood style. By waiting to enter this location, he could use the water he was standing ankle high in to his advantage. Kakashi jumped to the benches behind him where he stood, looking down into the water below. He kept his Rinnegan on it, waiting to see where the next attack might spring from. As soon as Shuriken shot from the water, Kakashi jumped out of the way and shot chakra rods down into it. He missed hitting anything though. Knowing he needed to get his assailant into the open, he formed his hand into a flamethrower with the Asura path and fired it down into the water, attempting to both evaporate the water and or make it boiling hot, enough to hurt anyone hiding within. As he did this, his assailant shot out of the water from a direction Kakashi wasn't expecting, pinning him down. Kakashi used the Diva path to fling Tenzo into the ceiling with such force that he fell unconscious. Getting up, summoning the King of Hell, he spoke. "All right, let's see what you know." As Danzo was on his daily stroll about the gardens, he was stopped when Kakashi appeared around a tree with Tenzo, tossing him to the ground. Danzo looked down at Tenzo before looking up at Kakashi. "What's this?" "There's no need to play stupid. He told me everything." Danzo smiled. "I don't know what you're talking about." "Are you sure? He told me it was you who ordered him to kill me. He also told me a few other interesting things, like the fact that you're planning to assassinate the Hokage. But that's not the only thing. I know all of your dirty dealings." Danzo's face seemed to display a little shock. Kakashi began to go into detail about the plans. He then spoke. "Sounds quite treasonous if you ask me, Shimura. You could easily be executed for this." "How do you know this? I placed a seal on his tongue that would stop him from telling you any secrets." "I have access to the abilities of the Rinnegan. Among them would be the King of Hell, who, shall we say, is very persuasive. He also attaches to the tongue, and he overrode your seal. Kinda hard to get the truth out of someone who's incapable of speaking it." "So what? Have you come here to blackmail me?" "That's exactly what I've come to do," Kakashi said. "Your attack against me is unsanctioned. The Hokage neither ordered it nor desires it, yet you did so anyway for your own desires. You even ordered Tenzo here to take my Rinnegan and bring it to you. I'm sorry to disappoint, but you'll never get this Rinnegan." Kakashi pulled his forehead protector off to show a seal. "See this? It's the invention of the Hyuga. I'm certain you had no idea that I had this, but it was something that Minato and I cooked up together when the Uchiha attacked me that day. Fearing other parties might try to take this, he told me to consider getting a seal to ensure that nobody else could take it. And if they did steal it, they could do nothing with it. If I can't have this eye, then nobody can." "Okay, so you have information on me," Danzo said, "and I can't take that Rinnegan from you. But who's to say I have to leave it in your hands? After all, nobody trusts the shinobi who's responsible for the Ninetales attack." "That wasn't me." "Even now you defend yourself, but we all know," Danzo said. "How could we ever expect even a shred of honor from the son of Sakamo Hatake, the man who sold out his village's immediate victory for personal gain?" Kakashi felt his blood boiling, but he stayed his hand. He spoke. "Returning to your original question, you can't kill me, because if you do, fail-safes I've set in place will go off, and all the information I've gathered on you with Tenzo's help will go straight to Hiruzen and every newspaper in Konoha. You'll be finished." Kakashi stepped closer. "I didn't set free the Ninetales. I'm no threat to this village. I'm a threat to you, but I think we can work out an arrangement. In exchange for my life, and for you stopping this slander campaign against me, I won't expose you for the treasonous bastard you are." Danzo stood there for a moment before sighing. I can't change the people's perceptions of you at this current moment, but I can stop feeding into it. And as for your life, fine, it's yours. But do not expect anything more from me. I will not live under your thumb. You see, I'd rather be executed than live under you. And if I'm executed, I'll make sure that my last command my men carry out will be to kill you and destroy everything you love along with you. Do I make myself clear? Kakashi smiled. I think we've both made ourselves clear. And with that, Kakashi disappeared. From there, he continued to do work directly under Hiruzen, but eventually a time came where Hiruzen said he believed Kakashi could do some good. The child of the 4th Hokage, Naruto, had graduated the academy alongside Fugaku's son, and he wanted Kakashi to be their personal teacher. Kakashi would go on to accept that, and now, here we are. Kakashi's standing there, watching his team horse around, unaware that Obito was watching the same. Taking a turn off of memory lane, Obito turned around to leave, his plan slowly in action. Kakashi would look down into his hands at a piece of paper that read, Escort Mission, Land of Waves. Smiling, he knew that this was going to be the first mission that his team would truly have together outside of the village. Looking up, he spoke. Hey guys, gather round. New mission. And that's where I want to call it. I feel like this makes for a good setup at least. I'd like to explore this story a bit further with you, but you guys gotta show that you really like the video. So be sure to like and leave a comment asking for more. Share it around with your friends too. Don't forget to subscribe and ring the bell because I'm sure you're gonna want to be notified when the video does drop, right? Anyway, here's a couple videos I feel you might enjoy, so check them out. Until next time, peace out.